What is good, everybody? Welcome to a very special Niners Nation Instant Reaction podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera here with Jordan Elliott of Niners Nation. And Jordan, we got news. I'm sitting around, I'm watching friggin' Hulu, like not paying attention to anything. I thought my work for everything was done. I literally had a story written up for Niners Nation about Tim Kawakami's piece that the Niners could be the front runners for Christian McCaffrey, and boom. Adam Schefter dropping a bombshell that the 49ers are going to acquire Christian McCaffrey for draft picks from the Carolina Panthers. I am utterly flabbergasted.
I'm right there with you. I didn't see it happening this fast. If it did, I thought it would be something where we'd get closer to the deadline and maybe, Carolina would be a little bit more desperate. But, John Lynch is, got to tip your cap. He was aggressive and he got it done. And here it's what is it, 11:30 where you are? It's, these late night deals are always fun.
Man, this is unbelievable. So I don't know what to think. I literally have not even had time to process how I feel about it. Obviously, we don't know the compensation yet. If anybody in the chat, you see something about the compensation, throw it in there. My initial reaction, I mean, you drafted running backs in the third round in each of the last 2 years. Now, I know Trey Sermon is not here anymore, but like Ty Davis Price is on the roster, Jordan Mason's on the roster. And again, I realize they're not Christian McCaffrey, but I am surprised that they are rolling the dice on a guy that's had some injury issues.
Yeah, and I do wonder how much of this, Rob, came down to them just acknowledging like we can't get running backs in the draft early. We haven't been able to find that dynamic bell cow can, do everything for you. They can't.
Whoa. Sorry.
Okay.
I just saw the compensation. Schefter says Niners are sending the Rams second. Wait, Niners are sending the Rams second, third, and fourth. Wait a minute.
I think he meant to say he's sending the Panthers those picks. So it's going to be a 2, 3, and a 4 and
a 2, 3, and a 4 in 2023 and a 5th in 2024.
I think that's too much, dude.
That's absurd.
Yeah, that's too much. Yeah.
This guy could
stay healthy because that's a lot, man.
This guy could play 2 games for the 49ers.
I mean, even with the upside of him being healthy and what he does, that's way too. And you don't have the first round pick either. So what? They're not going to pick till day 3 next year.
Look, I've heard of F them picks, but F that draft. That's what the 49ers just did.
That's wild, dude. I think that's too. My instant reaction to that would be that's too much to give up, especially like you said, given the injury history. He's been in the league for 6 years. Like, I don't like it. I mean, in the short term, it sounds great, but that's a lot to give up, dude.
That's a ton for a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Kyle Shanahan has always wanted this rushing, receiving threat out of the backfield. That's really what they thought Jerick McKinnon was going to be. I think that's what he was kind of going for with Tevin Coleman. We heard rumors that they were interested in Le'Veon Bell back in the day, but to give up your second, third, and fourth round picks next year when you already don't have a first round pick because of the Trey Lance deal, that tells me that Kyle Shanahan thinks that this is a Super Bowl team. That's what he's telling you.
And the pressure is ramped up now on them even more. Like, there really aren't excuses for them to not execute because Jimmy's proven that he's, they've been able to get there before with him. The only real weakness when it came to skill positions, you could argue, was the running back position. So I'm with you. Like, this makes the pressure on them to win this year infinitely greater than it already have been, for sure.
I'm stunned. The Niners have to be getting some sort of draft pick back in return, right?
They have to, because if you think, I know there's years left on his deal and it's not the same situation, but like the Rams gave up a 2 and a 3 for Von Miller, who plays a premium position and helped them win a Super Bowl last year. And the Niners gave up more than that for a running back with injury issues. So I'm excited for what McCaffrey's going to bring to the team from an X's and O standpoint and what they can do with him schematically. But like, that's brutal to go through basically 3 days of the draft before you make a pick. I don't know how you can justify that.
Okay, hold on. Ian Rappaport says the Panthers get a second round pick at 23, a third round 23. Yeah, that's it. There's no draft picks going back to the Niners. There's no anything. It's literally just straight up for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, maybe there was a bidding war, right? Maybe the Rams and the Bills and the Chiefs, and who knows who got involved. But I mean, I'm sure John Lynch is not picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, we'll give you 2, 3, 4, 5," and like he's not just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I wonder what the long-term vision is, Rob, because I think so much of this has to do with, again, the complete package. Because you're not doing this for a guy that's just going to carry the ball 20 times a game. Like, I think maybe Kyle has plans for him. Maybe they're going to use him in the slot a little bit. Definitely what he can do out of the backfield. Remember, he gave all that money to Jerick McKinnon once upon a time. Like, McCaffrey is a guy that can do all that stuff for them, but that price is just, that's going to be really a tough pill to swallow if anything short of a Super Bowl happens this year. Because there's going to be 3 months where all we're going to be able to talk about is 5th round draft prospects because they traded everything away.
Right. If you thought this year was tough with no first, it's like, damn, we might not even do a live draft show at that point. Look, all we heard Super Bowl window, they were all hesitant to go at Lance, because there was going to be growing pains, whatever. I mean, they clearly think they're in it now. And I'm going to try and keep an eye on this. Like, what are other 49ers players saying on social media? I mean, they got to be pumped, right? I mean, let's look. This is clearly a now move. If you're on this team now, you're stoked, right? You gave up essentially nothing. I mean, draft picks, yes, but players care far less about that. You gave up essentially nothing to get a player who, I mean, looks really good this year and has looked really good in the past. Even against the Niners, he looked good this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it has to give them a little boost of confidence too for all the things you mentioned, where they have to feel like, okay, like we think we're a Super Bowl team. Clearly, the front office feels they're a Super Bowl team, and they're willing to part. Like, second and third round draft picks are really valuable. I know the first round picks are the big headliners whenever there's trades, but those second and third round picks are really valuable, especially when you don't have the first. Yeah. So that if you're a player, you got to feel really good about the belief that the front office has in you to win right away. And again, he's under contract for the next couple of years, so this isn't strictly a rental. It would be absolutely inexcusable if it was, he was a free agent after the season. But, I just think that Kyle has to have some sort of master plan here where he's masterminding some way to utilize McCaffrey beyond just the traditional running back role. Like, I think we might see him again kicked out wide in the slot. Like, he has to be a guy going forward where he's getting 80, 85 targets a year, I
agree. Kevin Dennis watching on the YouTube page. Kyle's going to trade Trey Lance for all the draft capital back, and we'll have Jimmy Garoppolo for another 2 to 3 years. At this point, I wouldn't be shocked as we welcome in Mark DeLuca here from Niners Nation as well. Mark, I had written it wasn't going to go live until tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern time. But what I had written, the last line of the piece that will now never see the light of day was, this team is never boring and it's awesome. And here we are.
I mean, look, this is, obviously Lance's injury is was a terrible part of the season and took a lot of air out. It did just end, though, having to worry about debate, right? Like, it made it, all right, we're focused on this team. We're focused on how they're going to do this season. We'll worry about quarterback stuff later. And so it is nice to be on that end of things here. Hey, put all the chips in. I got to be honest, though. I imagine, this is Shanahan we're talking about. McCaffrey will be split out wide. He'll be, an option in the passing game. He's been known when he has a back he likes, the backup ain't getting carries. Are we sure it's just McCaffrey's going to get 20? I mean, you can get 20, 25 touches, obviously, in a variety of ways. But, I wouldn't be shocked if it's just McCaffrey in the backfield and, and he's just getting the lion's share of carries. Granted, obviously, you could still you could do some fun stuff now. Think about throwing Debo in the backfield, throwing McCaffrey out wide, or putting them both in the backfield together. My God, but yeah, I mean, hey, I think the other thing too. I imagine y'all probably mentioned this before I hopped on. Right, the Niners have a lot. They had a lot of draft capital. They didn't have a first round pick, but they had a second round pick. They had 3. They were gonna have 4 third round picks because D'Amico Ryans is going to get a head coaching job this offseason. So they were going to have 4 third round picks. They were going to have their own 4th round pick. They're probably going to have some other picks coming in the comp round. The trade deadline or trades in general, I think are perfect time. Again, I prefer the Niners approach when it comes to trading capital. You want to accumulate a bunch of picks. You can occasionally use some of the top, but for the most part, accumulate a bunch of mid-round picks because those are always valuable at getting you veterans who are going to do way more for your team in the short term, mid-term than young players are. And the other thing about it, right, trading for a player means that signing bonus money ain't on your salary cap. Like, it's also a way to manage the cap in a weird way, right? If McCaffrey's a free agent and the Niners sign him to the contract he got in Carolina, it's way different for the cap. They're going to take on the minimum on the of the prorated value of the minimum base salary that McCaffrey's making this year. And then I think the next couple years, right, it's 11 million or 12 million base salary with no money guaranteed. So that puts them in good position if they want to sign to an extension, to restructure, to kick that money down the road, give them a bit more guarantees. And even then, even if they don't, 12 million for Christian McCaffrey, yeah, he's a running back. There's risks. He hasn't been the same guy he was early in his career. But $12 million, that's second, basically to be a second or third receiver or third weapon, although really fourth, I guess, if you throw Kittle in there. Like, that's to me great value as well. Obviously the second round pick hurts, but Carolina isn't saving cap money with this. I think they save $1 million this year and like $2 million next year. So if they're going to make this move, they were going to need to get some big picks. Again, they lose the second and third, but they'll probably have 3 threes anyway. They can probably use 2 of those threes, hopefully, to trade up to the back of the second round if they want to make a pick there. And then you're pretty much, about where you'd be in a normal draft minus the one.
Yeah.
For the trade up.
So there's a lot of takes flying in the comments, and I think it's a good point you bring up, Mark, about the picks that they're going to get for comp and all that. I'm reminded, Jordan, of something that Troy Aikman said during the Week 4 game against the Rams. And I always say, like, when you watch the broadcast of the game, they have the production meeting with the staff, and sometimes you get little nuggets in there because they're pretty honest in those production meetings. And Troy Aikman said Kyle Shanahan really doubts he has the horses at running back to run the offense the way he wants to do it. And yet here we are going into week 7 and Christian McCaffrey's on the team.
Yeah, I remember you posted about that a couple of days ago, and I think you're absolutely right. I think especially, with somebody like Troy Aikman who's been in the booth for that long, he's not going to throw something out there like that just to fill the 5 seconds of airtime or whatever. Like, there's going to be some meaning behind it. And I think that was – I remember, if I recall correctly, I think you did post about that a couple of days ago because I saw it, and I'm pretty sure it was from you. To be honest with you, I can't wrap my head around the fact that they gave up that much capital for a running back. Like, you live and die by Kyle Shanahan, so I'm excited to see what happens. I just didn't think it would take that much, and I'm shocked the 49ers were the team to do it. But, just like you said, if they felt confidently like the running game wasn't going to get it done with who they had to do something, especially with the talk of that Super Bowl window, because it's not as much as I like draft picks and as much as we can talk about them, these windows don't last forever. And if you really feel like that's what's holding you back, we know how good the defense is. You got to pull the trigger. So this season already had so many interesting storylines, and it just added a whole nother layer to how much, I can't wait for Sunday, man. Even if he doesn't play, the going forward, this is going to be.
And also, again, the long term, like, he's under contract, but again, he goes from being the minimum this year to 12 million next year. Are they going to keep that 12 million on the books? Like, again, it's not out of the question. They could turn around, if he has a great second half, they could turn around and move him this offseason, obviously extend, there's. It's like, right. I mean, obviously, he is not going to be the impact player Khalil Mack would have been way back. But I remember when they were asked about, they were like, "How are you going to do this? DeForest Buckner's coming up, Eric Armstead's going up." The Niners basically said we were going to trade 2 first-round picks for Khalil Mack. Go for it. At the end of the year, we were figuring we could trade him again if we weren't in the position. So I also think there could be an element where I could see Shanahan and Lynch kind of talking themselves in here too. Yeah, like, basically we're giving up this 2nd round pick for the run, and we figure worst case scenario we could trade him for a 3rd and 4th this offseason, or a 3rd and 5th. It could be a part of their logic. I mean, again, this is right. Kyle Shanahan gets incredible running back production from running backs who aren't drafted very highly, and Kyle Shanahan still loves running backs, and probably overpaying in terms of value. But hey, I mean, they still got a dynamic player, right? Like this does change the fabric of their offense going forward.
Kyle McAndrews on the YouTube page. Thanks for the super chat. All we need is a 5th round pick anyways, which, given how the success they've had there, yes. But then Jason, PDSI, watching on the YouTube page, says, John Lynch just plunged our franchise into a decade of mediocrity. Christian McCaffrey has spent more time in a blue tent than on the field. We are dead. Jason's not wrong. In his first 3 years in the league, Christian McCaffrey played 16 games all 3 years. In the 3 years since then, Christian McCaffrey has played just 16 games combined. So there is a risk there as we welcome in Kyle Posey, Mr. Graham Poobah of Niners Nation. KP, I owe you a new article now. Sorry.
Yeah, man, you're going to have to stay up a little later and get to work. Wow. Yeah. So Tim Kawakami did a good job of kind of hinting that this was about to happen,
but
it wasn't supposed to happen like right away, right? This is going to be something that happens maybe a week from now, maybe right up on the or right up until the trade deadline. But the fact that they were able to get him now, does this mean he's going to suit up Sunday? Because I think it does. I think there's no doubt he is on the field.
This is a we need some horses for Kansas City.
I'm not gonna fucking lose to Patrick Mahomes again. I'm not gonna do it. And this is what he does, man. He's very I mean, we've talked about it before. He listens to the media. He's on the internet. Don't believe what you hear. So this comes off as a guy who knows, hey, my team is 3-3. I have 2 weeks before the bye. I'm going to try to squeeze every ounce of offense that I possibly can out of my team before I get to the bye. And this is exactly what it does. Yeah, it's Christian freaking McCaffrey, man. What else can you say about it?
Let me just throw this in here because I saw somebody, Michael Sean Duggar. I hope I'm saying that name right on Twitter. He covers the Seahawks for The Athletic, but he kind of pointed out like the Niners are a little all over the place, right? March of 2021, they're like, hey, we can win, but we need somebody other than Jimmy G. Then this offseason, they're like, hey, it's Trey Lance time. We're going to get rid of Jimmy. And now in this year, it's like, hey, we're stuck with Jimmy, but now we're going to go all in because we think we can win with Jimmy. It is sort of a weird plan, Jordan, or lack thereof.
Yeah, I think honestly, though, like with McCaffrey, it's such a special situation because of his skill set. Like his ability to play in the slot, play out wide, the things that Kyle can do with him in the passing game is, to me, like he's such a unique weapon. Like there really isn't another player in the league like McCaffrey that can do all the things that he does. Maybe Le'Veon Bell at his peak was probably the closest we've seen to somebody that can do all of those things from that position at that level. So I agree the timing is kind of off, but I also think that it's one of those situations where I would be shocked if the 49ers didn't spend a significant amount of time in that first draft they had in 2017 eyeing McCaffrey. And I'm sure Kyle would have loved to come in from day one and had a weapon like that, but it's really hard to justify having the building block of your team be a running back, no matter how talented they are. So this could have been a situation where Kyle's kind of been, pining for him for years. And it's a situation where all of a sudden he becomes available. To my knowledge, I don't think there's ever been a time in the last 5.5 years or so where McCaffrey was on the table. So I think had it been a different running back, it would be much stranger. But I think just the overall skill set McCaffrey brings and what he can do within this offensive scheme makes it like it's a risk, of course. Like it's not like a no-brainer, but I mean, I agree with a lot of what KP said. Like I think they just got to the point where like they had to make some kind of move, and he's gonna. There's a lot riding on a running back, which is wild to say in the year 2022, but here we are.
So let's get into that a little bit. This is not my area, so I defer to you guys. How do we think that Kyle is going to use this essentially Swiss Army knife? And by the way, as Kevin Dennis, thanks for the super chat, pointed out, like on top of all this, we've got Harbaugh and all those boys coming in this weekend too. Like this is just wild. But how is Kyle Shanahan going to use this new weapon that he has? Supposedly when they got Jerick McKinnon, Kyle had this whole offense and package and vision for how he was going to use him, and that all had to get scrapped when McKinnon got hurt. Mark, I'll start with you. What do you think Kyle's going to do with Christian McCaffrey?
I think, Jordan was talking about throwing him out wide, throwing him in the slot. Again, I'm curious, right? Because, again, it comes down to this move is, I think, a combination of factors right now. There is, I think, beyond just the McCaffrey being a great player, doing a lot of things that is so easy to fit into a Shanahan scheme. There's also a lot of, like, family connections here, right? Like this is a family. The McCaffreys and the Shanahans go way back. And Shanahan's a loyal dude. Like, I don't think, again, I'm not saying that's why they give up a couple extra round picks because of that. But Shanahan's shown when he likes a guy, he doesn't care about value, right? That's why he traded more to move up to the 3rd overall pick than anyone has traded for pretty much anything in NFL history, because he wanted the guy, so they were going to overpay to do it, right? I remember there was a Niners Nation piece from way back when Shanahan and Lynch's first draft. They said, why did we trade up for C.J. Beathard? Because we didn't want to wait till the next day and we were worried someone might take him, right? So like I think there's a part of that. And I also think there's an added part is I don't think he trusts the running backs a great deal right now. Like Jeff Wilson's had his fumble issues, and he fumbled last week. Like Jeff Wilson, again, he does what the offensive line gives you, but
Jeff Wilson fumbled. Screw it. Trade for Christian McCaffrey.
Right. Like, I mean, again, like I think it's a combination. That's why I'm curious to see. Like, again, I think McCaffrey can do a lot in the receiving game. He can do some out wide, out in the slot. Again, it wouldn't shock me though if he's just in the backfield and he's just getting a bunch of carries and running routes out of the backfield.
KP, who do you think the Niners beat out? Because I don't think, given what they gave up, there had to be another team in there.
Who else?
Almost the Rams, right? Like,
yeah, who else? Yeah.
Because if you're Kyle, you can't lose to the Rams again, right? Especially when you've already beaten them once this year. They're up against it. Like, getting McCaffrey could rejuvenate their offense. You've seen what McVay can do with a star running back when Todd Gurley was kicking the hell out of everybody. Do you think it came down to them and the Rams and Kyle was like, we're not losing to these bastards again?
Yeah, McVay's his boy. So they're probably talking about it, and maybe not talking about it directly, but McVay was just talking about how Cam Akers is probably on the way out. They don't have a running back. So knowing that he needs that probably was just even more extra motivation to go out and get CMC. But I think there's no doubt about it. It was the Rams. And we've seen other teams like the Bills be interested, but I think it was a two-man race, and they were never going to get a first-round pick. And I always wondered if the 49ers were going to call their bluff on that, because think about it. We talked about his contract. We talked about just his injury history as well. So, like, the 49ers had really not much to lose to go out and do this. I know that people are going to be concerned about his contract moving forward, but when you have Trey Lance on a rookie deal, that does not matter. And you can rework CMC's contract. You can rework Jimmy Ward's, Eric. Like, you can rework so many players on your team's contract that paying for a 26-year-old running back might upset some people, but this is no ordinary running back. This is legit he's probably one of the best receivers on the 49ers already. So, yeah, he's a really freaking good player. I don't think people didn't watch the Rams-Panthers last week, but he was the only reason that they were competitive, man. The Panthers didn't throw the ball past 5 yards. Everybody in the stadium knew the ball was going to go to McCaffrey, and he's still producing. I think that's the biggest compliment you can give to a guy like that. He had one run toward the end of the game where he made a guy miss, he broke another tackle, and then he just outran everybody, and he ended up getting caught. But those are the type of plays you need. So Shanahan talked last year, it's so hard to sustain drives in this league. And now they have game breaker at running back, and you add in Debo and Ayuk and obviously Kittle. So it's going to be very tough to slow this offense down. But when they do stumble, the pitchforks are going to come out, man.
By the way, if the Rams had traded their second and third round pick, they would not have a pick until the 6th round in the upcoming draft.
Oh, that's why. There it is.
That's why it was the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, right? Because the Rams are probably going to be picking higher if you were guessing right now, and
yeah,
might add the other stuff to.
They don't care. Like, good for the Rams and good for the Niners. Jason again on the YouTube page. Sean Lynch doesn't think he'll be here in 3 years. He just mortgaged our future for a piece of peanut brittle. I don't know that it's John Lynch doesn't think he'll be here. I think it's more like, hey, I'm going to do this, and if things start to go bad, I can get a job in TV anytime I want. So who cares? What's
also, a
difference?
2nd, 3rd, 4th, and a 4th or 5th. That's not mortgaging the future, right? Like that's. Like,
look at who they picked in those rounds.
Yeah. And that's a good point. We say it's a lot now, but if you attach names to those picks, and I tell you the Niners traded Solomon Thomas, AJ Jenkins, LaMichael James, if you put names to those picks and they're all duds, you're like, oh, this is a steal for the Niners. So we don't really know. And usually, Jordan, the team that gets the sure thing ends up on the better end of these deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does come down to that. Like, you could not imagine. I mean, we could all imagine, but could you imagine the firestorm that would have happened if the Rams would have gotten McCaffrey and the 49ers didn't? And let's say they go out and they run, 20 times for 65 yards or something like that. I don't want to say that was the driving decision, because it never should be. But I do think at a certain point, they had to do something to change up what they were doing on offense. And I'm just sitting here thinking, if you're an opposing defense and you're lining up against a 22 personnel look that has Debo and Ayuk out wide, has Kittle at tight end, and then you have Juszczyk and you have Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, you have to respect the run. You're going to have to throw 3 linebackers on the field. And you have 5 guys that can all run routes as good as, the majority of the people at their position. There's a couple guys that can't, but I'm not naming names here, but there's, that's that to me, I'd be having nightmares if I was a defensive coordinator, knowing that I'm going to have to stay in base personnel against a group that's that dynamic.
So I'm just seeing a tweet from Ian Rappaport. I'm just going to read it. New 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey, who has already spoken to Kyle Shanahan and Team Brass, travels tomorrow to his new home. If he plays Sunday, which he likely will do, expect a red zone package. Then he will ramp up from there. Man, this is happening.
Yeah,
he's playing.
So you can book right now. I don't know if there's an anytime touchdown score bet for Christian McCaffrey, but he's going to score a touchdown in the end zone. You can book that.
I'm about to look right now. So we do need to talk about this, and people are worried that this is like a rent of players. So Christian McCaffrey is under contract for 3 more seasons. Like, he's going to be in the Bay Area for the foreseeable future, and I imagine as long as Kyle Shanahan's here, he's going to be here. Think about the history that they have. He babysat this freaking kid. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, man.
Well, and think about the context too. Again, we talk about the injuries. We talk about all the potential sort of downsides of this deal, and there are some downsides, right? At the same time, McCaffrey's basically, after the season, it's 3 years at $12 million. Marquez Valdez-Scantling got $10 million as a free agent this offseason. Like, $12 million. If you're thinking of the free agent market, you're thinking of what kind of weapon $12 million gets you. Like, that's not a dangerous weapon. That's not someone with this upside. The fact that there's a chance that they have McCaffrey, again, in whatever form he is, they could have him for the next 3 years, and none of that money's guaranteed. So if this is something that collapses, if this is something where he has, big injuries, he just isn't the same guy, they're also not tied to anything on their books in 2025, 2024. And if he is that guy, you also now have leverage to restructure that into an extension that keeping him at a below market rate. Like, this is definitely not a situation where the Niners have to worry about the contract situation, unless he's really, really good, and then you figure it out and how to fit his $12 million on the books next year.
Right. Oh no. What if Christian McCaffrey's really, really good?
Right.
Like, it's the same. Like, there are some 49er fans that are like, what if they win the Super Bowl? Then what do you do with Jimmy and Trey? It's like, no, don't sit there worrying about winning a Super Bowl. Like, these are the problems that you want to have. I had been thinking that the Niners needed to do something different offensively. I wrote something for Niners Nation today about, has the offense really changed that much since the Super Bowl against the Chiefs? Last year, their big innovation was Debo at wide back. Apparently, Kyle, this year it's Christian McCaffrey at running back.
I mean, if there's let's think about that backfield. So, like, Jimmy in the backfield with Christian McCaffrey on one side and Debo on the other. Good luck defending that. Defenses are going to have a headache, man. It's going to be a pain to stop these guys. Yeah, I imagine he's going to be up all night drawing up. I mean, he probably has been, but how we heard about Kyle was on the airplane drawing up plays for Trey Lance. Like, he's probably legitimately up drawing plays for Christian McCaffrey. I don't have, like, I'm usually not too optimistic when it comes to players, but in this case, like, I don't have anything bad to say about Christian McCaffrey, because in my mind, there's nothing that he does bad on the football field. You really can't say that about many football players in this league. Like, yes, there's a chance that he gets hurt, but that's true for everybody. So that's just low hanging fruit right there. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how they use him, and the fact that he's going to suit up is probably a great sign.
Moody, watching on the YouTube page, says Mike McDaniel was the special sauce. Here's the thing. The thing about McCaffrey that I like is he's like Debo, a guy that can transcend scheme, right? Oh, it's really boring. This is a really boring, play, whatever. Well, Christian McCaffrey could just break 6 tackles and make a play like we saw Debo do against the Rams. Jordan, I want to give you a final thought here, because we're going to have people popping in and out, so I'm going to try and cycle in as many hosts as I can. Your final thought on the night that the 49ers acquire Christian McCaffrey.
I just think that this is hopefully what will take them over the top. I think that, again, what they will be able to do, to me, what Kyle Shanahan has done the best in his time as a play caller with the 49ers is force opposing defenses to keep their base personnel out in a time where sub packages rule the league and defenses are out in nickel more than they're in any other, defensive personnel. And you really are going to have a hard time defending this 49ers offense if you're not throwing 3 linebackers out there. And then when you add in what he can do, even again, Kyle Juszczyk as your fullback can run routes. I think this is the ultimate move to put them over the top while still not deviating from what Kyle ultimately wants to do as a play caller and a play designer. So while I'm very excited about that, I think it's a really bold strategy to give up that much draft capital for a running back. So I just think that my final takeaway, Rob, would just be they put a lot more pressure on themselves, but they have the potential to really be a Super Bowl team with the pieces they have in place right now.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Jordan Elliott, thank you very much.
Will he stay healthier knowing that he doesn't have to be the bell cow? Will he stay healthier knowing that the offense doesn't necessarily need to run through him in the same way that it did in Carolina? Because any Panther game you watch, 22, 22, 22, it's all him. In this case, he might not have to touch the ball 20 times. And if anything, it might be less is more with McCaffrey, knowing that defenses can't key in and hone in on him the same way that the Panthers did. Go Yankees!
Oh, guys, we welcome in Jason Aponte here. This could have been a salvageable night for Jason, KP, and then you just had to go and twist that knife. How are you feeling, Jay, after big news for the Niners?
Yeah, well, the Yankees lost. Chris Olave didn't score a touchdown for my anytime, bet. It's just we're completely rolling. And then here we go with Christian McCaffrey. A few quick thoughts, though, to kind of piggyback off what KP said. When you think about the Christian McCaffrey thing and the injuries, well, not only does that shore him up to not be injured, it also doesn't put Debo in a position where he needs to be a wide back anymore. And it also puts him in a position where he can be a wide receiver. And just think about the pressure that this is going to cause on the opposing defenses. Now, you have that guy who can run choice routes and do whatever you want. You have him who can split out wide. You don't need to necessarily tax him. One other thing for the people that are talking about, and Jordan's absolutely right. This is a lot of draft capital to give up for a running back, especially 26 with the injury history. I get that part. But the same fans that would be poo-pooing this front office and saying, well, he went to the Rams or he went to the Bills and they're not aggressive enough. Well, the 49ers were aggressive. And I think this shows you two things. One, they realize what's in front of them. They can win a Super Bowl this year in an NFC that has maybe one or two really, really good teams. I don't think you believe in the New York Giants at 5-1. I sure as hell don't. Or I don't believe in the Minnesota Vikings at 5-1. I mean, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are very good, but it's all right there for the taking. You get your reinforcements back on defense. The offense is largely going to have to be the reason that you take that next step. So why not give it a shot at this point? And so many people are going to tell you, well, you can't give up draft capital and, the draft's a crapshoot. Give me what I know. Give me what I know. Don't give me what you think a 3rd, 4th, and 5th round pick or whatever it is a 2nd round pick will be. Right. Because when those guys bust, you're going to tell me it's a crapshoot. So again, look, there's many ways to look at this. I personally am excited. I know many 49er fans are. But it does kind of show me that this front office is kind of taking charge right now and saying, we know what's in front of us. We're not going to waste this season and we're going to go for it. And I'm not necessarily against that idea.
Chris Maldonado watching on the YouTube page. What's up, y'all? If McCaffrey plays Sunday, does it change Kansas City's game plan and the fans are going to go crazy? Yeah, they will. He is likely going to play. Again, if you missed it, Ian Rappaport said he's already on his way to San Francisco. He's talked to the team brass already, and it looks like maybe they'll start with just the red zone package and go from there. I do kind of like that, though, Mark. Like, Kansas City now has no idea what to prepare for in the red zone, which, the Niners haven't been great in the red zone this year. They kind of, they have that one up on Kansas City, so to speak.
Yeah. And, on top of that, again, they're talking about the red zone again, hey, Christian, the verbiage, Jimmy will tell you what to do. I also would not be shocked if they end up downplaying it. We end up seeing him get 10, 15 touches, even outside of those kind of packages. I mean, again, it's such a dangerous weapon. It's such a dynamic weapon. And again, I wonder if you're Kansas City, if again, obviously they'll probably do some minor, late week adjustments. But at this point, if you're KC, right, you prep for Debo, you prep for Ayuk, you prepped for Kittle. At a certain point, I mean, again, this is even if they had the whole week, right? Going forward, this is just going to make life for defensive coordinators that much harder, when you are already going up, when it's already a tall task going up against Shanahan. Again, whatever you want to say about his in-game play calling, I think there's no doubt that prepping for him is still a really difficult thing for opposing coordinators to do. So now you're just giving basically, a 4th weapon that I think coordinators are really, concerned about, and whether or not that changes their scheme, or whether or not that, like, it just gives them another thing to be nervous about. It gives them another thing to take up time and stress. And again, and that adds up. That's incredibly valuable.
Well, Mark, thanks for hopping in here. I really appreciate the time.
No problem. I just want to say this one thing too. One thing I'll say too about the big draft return, they're giving up all these picks. Don't underestimate that a lot of this is being shaped by media narrative. And the national reporters who are making a big deal about this is a massive haul, this is a huge return, are doing that because the Panthers just traded the face of their franchise, and that fan base has truly nothing right now to If you are a Panthers fan, do you feel great about getting a second, third, and fourth round pick from the Niners? At best, it's probably 14th in the round. It's probably going to be in the 20s. Like, I just traded the only guy that makes this offense worth watching. We just traded Robbie Anderson for a sixth round pick because he didn't want to be here. Like, I also think there's a lot of the media narrative about massive haul. They gave up a third and fourth round pick for 32-year-old Emmanuel Sanders, who was going to be a free agent, who was on pace to get 800 yards, had 800 yards, and that trade was worth it for the 49ers. Yeah. They basically added a second rounder and a future fifth on top of it, got a guy who's younger, who's a better player, who's more dynamic, and is under team control at very favorable numbers for the next 3 years. Again, I mean, is it a bit of an overpay value getting the running back stuff? Sure. But I don't think it's this massive overpay that national media is starting to paint this as. I think that's heavily tied to they know they got Panthers fan base and they got Panthers sources they want to keep that relationship good with. So appreciate y'all.
Thanks, y'all, Mark.
Take care, Mark.
One more thing real quick. I think people are forgetting how many third-round picks the 49ers actually have, and D'Amico Ryans is going to fetch them another one once he becomes a head coach as well too. So, again,
true.
It's so many things, and it's not necessarily like face value when you look second, third, fourth round pick. It's easy for you to say, man, that's a lot. But then you forget the behind-the-scenes stuff. The 49ers are gods at comp picks, and that's exactly what they've done, and that's how they built this roster pretty well. So, again, are we objectively looking at this, or are we just taking this for face value and just saying, oh, my God, they gave up all these picks? They're going to have a bunch of third-round picks, and they didn't have any first-round picks at this point. And then when you think about the future of this team, I shudder to think of what this offense would look like next year with Trey Lance, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel with a full season. And one more thing, Trent Williams ain't getting any younger. George Kittle's not getting any younger. You've got to strike while you have a shot right here at this point. So when 49er fans tell me, oh, I want to win Super Bowls, I want to win multiple Super Bowls, well, let's win one. And let's figure that one out. And then after that, we'll figure out the rest. Like when did we start to figure out that Super Bowls are won second, third, and fourth, fifth times super easy, as if the first one was easy? Like, again, realistically, think about this. It's hard to win Super Bowls. So if you get one, do you think that the Rams right now, no matter all the struggles that they're going through right now, and they don't have any picks, think they're upset because they won a Super Bowl last year? Win the Super Bowl, and then we'll talk about the rest later. Please.
How does this change the landscape of the NFC? Because if you look around, we say it every week, like, who's good in the NFC? Like, the Eagles are good. The Cowboys, when they get Dak back, they're probably good. And if you look at a lot of advanced metrics and just point differential, the 49ers are probably next up. That was with an offense that's been sputtering. That's with an offense that can't seem to get out of their own way. If anything, this is going to keep the defense more fresh. I don't want to say this makes them the favorites, but if you were to say it, I wouldn't disagree with you.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that just because they have so many injuries. But clearly the Niners are right there in the NFC. And, this goes to positionless football. That's what Kyle Shanahan has always wanted. And so as long as this defense is some semblance of healthy, I think they're going to be able to do so much creative stuff with McCaffrey, starting him in the backfield, moving him into the slot, starting Deebo out wide, then moving Deebo into the backfield. Maybe McCaffrey goes out wide. Like, they're going to be able to do so much stuff here that I really do think that as long as their defense is somewhere close to the group that we saw in the beginning of the year, they are right up there with anybody in the NFC. And I think the Niners' kind of philosophy is just get us to the playoffs, and we'll do the rest from there, whether it's winning the division, whether it's wild card, whatever. Like, Kyle will say to this day, he thinks the Niners had the best team in 2019 and they didn't win the Super Bowl. I don't think they care about being the number one seed or any of that. Just get into the playoffs and I will figure it out. And it's certainly a lot easier to figure out, Jason, if you've got Christian McCaffrey back there.
Rob, and then think about this team. They're about to get their starting free safety back. They'll get Mooney Ward back at some point. They'll get Azeez Al-Shaair back. They'll get Elijah Mitchell back. Trent Williams is on his way back. What other team in the NFC can you look at and say, aside from Dallas, who is about to get Dak Prescott back, and I'll be honest, I know 49er fans don't want to hear this. They scare the hell out of me because that defense is just as good as advertised, and Dak Prescott's very good. But largely, the NFC, all of these teams are who they are. The Green Bay Packers are who they are. Devontae Adams ain't walking through that door. They don't want to give the ball to Aaron Jones for whatever reason. Do you think that you're worried about Kirk Cousins in Minnesota? You're not. The Saints are not good. The Cardinals are a mess. Kyler Murray's cursing at his coach. I mean, the Rams right now, their offensive line is like there's no real big additions or returns for NFC teams right now at this point. But the 49ers are going to do two things. They just added a difference maker, and they're going to get healthy. And they have different – it's not, it's just some guy. No, it's Mooney Ward, Jimmy Ward, Nick Bosa, Azeez Al-Shaair, Elijah Mitchell. These are all difference makers, and that's what the 49ers have in their back pocket.
Let's welcome in Rich Madrid here. Rich, welcome to the cabal here, talking a little Christian McCaffrey. I have to say, I feel like everybody so far has been pretty positive on this move for the Niners. Are you going to come in and spoil the party?
Do it.
No. I love Christian McCaffrey as a player. Definitely, I wanted him in the 2017 draft in the first round with their first pick. Just been an absolute fun joy to watch that guy play football. And I didn't think they were going to do it, though. I thought, they're always in on these players. They were outbid on Khalil Mack. They were outbid on Stafford. And they're always like, yeah, we were in. We made a call, kind of gauge the other team's interest. And, nothing ever happened with a lot of the other past players they were involved with. So to see this come across the timeline was, just shocking. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. Plus, like what Jason was saying earlier, there's no player in the second, third, and fourth rounds that's going to be better than this guy right away. So I think they had to make the move. They needed to do something, and they did it. And I'm pumped for it. I really am.
What does it say about TDP?
About Ty Davis Price?
Yeah.
Another third-round pick down there. So wait. Oh, wait, KP. Hold on. Wait. So third-round picks can bust? Oh, but we gave
right.
a third-round pick for
Right.
Christian McCaffrey. Again, guys, stop telling me the draft's a crapshoot, and then you're getting Christian McCaffrey, a known commodity, for a maybe guy. Come on.
They just traded TDP and Ambry Thomas for a CMC.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you attach names to it, all of a sudden it doesn't look quite so expensive. Now, of course, that can go the other way too. Let's be fair. If you traded, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, and yada, 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 then it looks really bad. But no one can know that when you make the trade. It's impossible to know. So if that's going to be your philosophy, you're never going to trade for anybody, and you're never going to take big swings. And I like that they're taking a swing, right? You can't hit a home run if you're always trying to bunt. Maybe it blows up in their face, okay, but when you're here and you've got the roster they have, if you're not going to take a big swing, what the hell is the point?
This is nothing really new, right? This is something that they've done essentially every year. So dating back to and people always remember the swings that don't work out, but they probably don't make the Super Bowl if they don't swing. I'm not going to say miss for D Ford. And we talked about the Jerick McKinnon one, but that doesn't really seem like a big deal. So Emmanuel Sanders those are the type of deals that you remember that stand out, because when he was on the field, when he brought them in, he made everybody around him better. You have to think that McCaffrey is going to make everybody around him better. And again, if you can't hone in on McCaffrey the way that the Carolina is going to do, because they have so many freaking good players on offense, it's going to be very tough to slow him down, man. I agree with what Rich said. People know he's good, but I don't think people really understand how good of a player this guy is, man.
Now I got to go fire up that Panthers film, Rich, and just watch every touch that Christian McCaffrey has and just sit there and get excited.
I'll make a clip tonight. It'll be fun.
Yes.
I wish some of the older stuff was still available on Game Pass. I don't really have any of the Panthers tape from the last few seasons because all that just disappeared.
Because you care about your mental health and you don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
I can't bear to watch.
Not watching that Matt Rule tape.
Yeah, not grinding DJ Moore being wide open and getting overthrown.
Not only that, but watching him in the offense.
Stop it, KP. Stop it. Your anti-DJ Moore agenda has been clear for some time. I don't like it.
That was kind of a disgusting offense with Cam Newton and him too back in 17.
Very.
So I mean, I just
inside zone.
And then then they'd get him across the field on like their version of arches or whatever. But he's just an electric player. He's going to be enhanced. His skill set's going to be enhanced in this offense. It's going to be a nightmare for teams.
Can I bring up something? And this is something that I was actually slacking you about earlier, Kyle, because I thought that Jimmy Garoppolo had a really couple interesting answers in his press conference today. He was talking about they asked him, like, do you see signs that the offense is coming out of it? And what he said was, yes, I do. We're building that trust with the skill players is what he said. And when he said that, I was like, that's really weird because all the skill players have been there for at least 2 years. So how does he not have trust built up with them? He specifically went on to mention Ayuk and how like Ayuk is on the right track and he's doing really well and they're building this trust. So we all think that Christian McCaffrey is going to come right in. And yet, if it takes Jimmy Garoppolo 2 years to gain trust in a player, will that limit his effectiveness, or am I just reading way too much into things, Kyle?
No, I mean, why would he say that if there wasn't legitimate trust issues? And we don't know what exactly those trust issues are, right? Because when we see them play, or when we see Ayuk play specifically on Sunday, he's always open. And we're always clamoring for more targets from him. And finally, on this past Sunday, it looked like they're running their offense through him. He had the most targets he's had in 2 years. But for Jimmy to come out and say that after that, despite Ayuk having a good performance, that means there's definitely something going on behind closed doors. So will we ever get a media member to ask that question? Probably not. But I don't, it's tough just because you don't know what's going on. And all we can see on the surface is Ayuk just balling essentially. So I would love to know what he needs to do to take that next step or to essentially earn Jimmy's trust other than throw him the ball and give him an opportunity. But it sounds like it's much deeper than that.
All right, so maybe it's just a receiver thing. I mean, at least with Christian McCaffrey, they could just turn around and hand him the ball. And if I know one thing about Jimmy Garoppolo, he's damn good at turning around and handing running backs the football.
You just couldn't resist. You couldn't resist. Like it was there. Like you could have like not done it, and you were just like, nah, no way, I'm going for it.
Who's getting the push pass? He went like this. I went like that.
It's
what is he the best? Is he gonna live in the slot? Like, are they going to have Jeff Wilson or Kyle Juszczyk in the backfield as a third down back? And is he going to be the slot receiver? Because
I think that's what makes it so,
they've kind of phased you. I don't want to say they've phased Juwan Jennings out, but it seems like he's losing snaps as the week goes along, and they need to be more explosive. And obviously, the one drawback with Jennings is he can't really run down the field. So that's not an issue with CMC. So I wonder if that's part of the line of thinking, in addition to just, he's going to be on the field no matter what.
The drops don't help. I mean, this is going to limit McLeod too. So that's
great. No.
Great.
Probably
what will we do?
You're just like setting it up for Rob. But no, I do think that that's a good point. And I think that's what makes this move so exciting, right? Like there is a world where, you could go 4 or 5 wide and it's Christian McCaffrey and, putting him up against a linebacker or anything like that. That's death. That's just death. And it's so easy, right? And we can, out of the backfield, run Texas routes all day. Rich Madrid's favorite. Like it's so easy to just do things like that with Christian McCaffrey. It just, again, I do think that the 49ers recognize this NFC is wide open. This offense is going to have to be the reason that we do get it done, because we've tried the whole defense, carry us, all those things. But in those bigger moments, you need the offense to make plays, and you need to have playmakers. No better playmaker at the running back was available right now at this point. And don't tell me about some guy that's sitting on the street that used to play in Kyle's system 4 years ago. Don't tell me that they could have picked up Devonta Freeman and said, well, you just know, like, that's not the same thing, guys. It's not. It really isn't.
Hey, I'm going to bounce. I got stuff I got to take care of. So I'm
going to get out of here too, actually, because it's late on my side, and I'm going to be up early tomorrow because I'm probably not going to be able to sleep.
All right.
It's late for you too, huh?
Rich, thank you very much. Jason, thank you very much.
See you, boys.
David watching on the YouTube page, Stats woke up and chose violence after the trade. First of all, I wake up and choose violence every single day.
I was going to say, David, have you never met this guy before?
You know what I'm looking forward to? The narrative now for every 49ers game and primetime game has shifted. Instead of the Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't even supposed to be here. Now it's going to be, oh, they're going all in for this year. They traded for Christian McCaffrey. Oh, by the way, did you know Kyle Shanahan used to babysit Christian McCaffrey? Christian McCaffrey went to Stanford. That happens to be close to where the 49ers are. Like that, that's what it's going to be now.
It's going to be nonstop. They're going to find different ways to connect the same storyline, the same plot over and over and over again. You know what we really need? The NFL to step in, bump this terrible Sunday night football game, and let the 49ers and Chiefs play under the lights. That's what we need.
Please. My God. I mean, it's too late to do it now, but damn.
It's the Dolphins and the Steelers, man.
God. It does sort of change the outlook for the 49ers for the rest of the year, though. Like, I already feel better about the just having him on the field, even if he doesn't touch the football, changes everything. And I agree. Less Juwan Jennings, less Ray McCloud. Like, yes, I'm here for that.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with having more good players. And that's what the 49ers are doing right now. Instant impact players. So Andy Reid was talking about the 49ers, obviously, and he said D'Amico Ryans did a really nice job of getting new guys in and getting them to play fast right away. And I think with Christian McCaffrey, there's going to be such an easy crossover for him. So he's going to be able to do all the things that we want to see. And there's not going to be this lag when he's on the field, just because he's going to be in a position. Again, he's going to have so much space around him to operate as well. And that's another thing. The space that he had in Carolina, like, I'm going to start posting screens like, he was in hell there. Like, I'm so happy for him just as a person to not have to go through the rest of his career. So yeah, it's buckle up, man. You cross your fingers. You want him to stay healthy because he is just such an entertaining player to begin with, but it'll be fun. How fun will it be knowing all this, that his first real action is going to come against the Rams?
Right. Just as if we needed, another thing. The Rams are probably like, damn it. Especially when, by all reports, they were the ones competing with the Niners at the end for this deal. Part of me does wonder if the Rams were only in it to jack up the price on the Niners. Sure. That's the skeptical
knowing
side
that
of
they
this.
Didn't have a real chance.
Right. Knowing like, hey, we'll never finally actually pull the trigger. So let's just keep saying that we will. That's a dangerous game too. But look, I like it for the, like, am I scared about the picks? Yeah, but I'm not even going to know what those are, what they turn into for a long, long time from now. So now I'm just going to enjoy it. And let me just throw one more thing in there. And this is me just going over the top, looking ahead, but I'm going to do it anyway. Does this make the Niners just a little bit more attractive for Odell Beckham Jr.?
Ooh, now we're
decides to, he's got to sign somewhere, right? November, I saw a report that he might be able to be willing to sign next month with somebody. You throw Christian McCaffrey in the, I don't know. Maybe I'm going overboard.
No, so it doesn't have to be limited to Odell Beckham over the next few weeks. We should be looking at it like this. In the upcoming offseason, the free agents that are going to want to come to the Bay Area now that we hear people talk about, hey, because this player, they want to come to certain teams. Now that the 49ers, John Lynch can say, hey, look at all these players we have. You don't have to do anything. We're going to score a bunch of points. We're going to be up. Now you can pad your stats defensively. Maybe that's going to be to entice like a cornerback or a safety. So this could go in a lot of positive ways for the 49ers in the offseason when it comes to adding more good players to their roster.
And I get the nepotism or the skepticism. I got Brandon Lee Gowden and RJ Ochoa from Bleeding Green Nation and Blogging the Boys are just laughing, cackling at the return the Niners gave up. And I get all of that. And look,
don't care.
Right. Like, yes, they're right. But also, what if it works? Like, and that is a possibility. He could get hurt, but he could stay healthy. And if he stays healthy, he's going to be awesome. And this offense is going to be awesome too.
Just stay healthy during the playoff run. Make the playoffs, stay healthy, make defenses honor the 49ers in the hardest time, and they're going to be fine, man. I think there's too many. When you look at these things, it boils down to one simple thing. Do you have Jimmys and Joes in the playoff? Do you have guys who can win one-on-one? Christian McCaffrey is one of the best one-on-one players in the NFL. It is a no-brainer to add that type of player to your offense in an offense that has been struggling to move the ball. That's it.
Struggling.
What else matters? Yeah.
And you could say what you want about, oh, they gave up a lot for a running back, whatever, but you're right. They had to do something. They had to. It couldn't keep going. And look, maybe this is the biggest signal yet that Kyle Shanahan didn't know what else to do, right? Like maybe he thought that this is the best he could do with what he had. Well, now he's got a new chess piece to move all over the field. It is going to be so much fun. And again, if you're just joining us, Christian McCaffrey likely will play at least some snaps on Sunday. Ian Rappaport said a red zone package for him. Man, if you had told me when I woke up this morning, this is the world we'd be in by the time I went to bed, I wouldn't have believed it. Although now I'm not going to bed for quite some time because I got to redo 49ers in 5 and I got to rewrite my post for tomorrow morning, Kyle.
Congrats to Christian McCaffrey for being able to run behind Trent Williams. Sorry, Rob, for having to stay up on the East Coast, but it'll be worth it.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us. I got to be honest. Well, I already recorded the Gold Diggers podcast with Michelle. I got to hack the hell out of that thing now because this is this is a different world than we lived in 30 minutes ago, or I should say an hour ago now. But
Yeah,
whatever.
man.
But it's going to be so much fun. That game against the Chiefs is going to be fun. We're going to have a crossover podcast that's going to come out with Steven Serto of Arrowhead Pride. So we'll have that to talk about. We'll break down the matchup. And, of course, the Instant Reaction podcast after the game live here on the Niners Nation YouTube, Facebook, Twitter pages, my Twitch page at Stats on Fire. Stick with Niners Nation because you never know what the hell is going to happen next. KP, thank you so much for jumping in.
Always, man. I will have no problem talking about this offense now.
Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.